Aloha. I'm Representative George Fontaine, representative for South Maui in Maui, Hawaii, and this is the Fontaine Factor. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight we have a real special show for you that I think you're really going to enjoy. We're going to talk about drug court, and with me we have two wonderful gentlemen who, one from Maui, Judge Raffetto and Judge Wilson are here with me this evening to talk about the drug court. Let me start off by introducing some of the areas where drug court is. We have some slides to show you where drug court exists in the state of Hawaii, and we're just going to kind of go through these slides a little bit to show you where they are located. These are the ones on the Big Island. Also on the Big Island, this is more on the Kona side. There are 5 of them over there. And here are the drug courts on Maui. We have a drug court for Molokai, one at the Second Circuit Court, and then we also have a juvenile program for drug court on Maui as well. And here are the drug courts on Oahu. And we can move on to Kauai, where we also have 2 drug courts over there, both adult and juvenile. So gentlemen, drug court. It's been in existence for a while. I understand it's a very successful program. For the viewers out there, can you just kind of give them basically the ABCs and what is drug court anyway?
Well, let me jump in and then my colleague can pick up anything that I might miss. It's not a separate court really, it's a operating division of the circuit court in each of the circuits. And it's detailed a judge for that function, a drug court judge. I happen to serve in that capacity actually for the entire duration of our program. And it's a treatment program, diversion program that people who are facing charges of a B or C felony in the criminal justice system can apply for, and if they're deemed to have a drug problem that is the basis of their criminality, then and they're nonviolent, then they can ask to come into our program, and if they're accepted, then they serve a minimum of 1 year. Usually people take about 2 years to finish the program. It's very intensive, 4-phase treatment to basically try to help them change the way they think, change their criminal thinking and their addictive thinking. Part of that's education, part of that's role-playing, group get-togethers and therapy and individual therapy. If people have co-occurring disorders, which a large number of people do, we get them out for medical help that they need and medication if they need that. Most people take about 2 years to get through. When they do finally succeed and they graduate, then if they were a track 1 or 2 with pending charges, we dismiss the charges so they never have the criminal charges on their felony charges on their record. So that's a great incentive for those folks. If they're track 3, then they're on probation, and we instead of 5 years probation, we let them off probation after the 2nd year if they successfully graduate from the program. They've already got the conviction, so there's nothing we can do about that. And we also have 2 more tracks, track 4, which are people who have been sent to prison, who are out on parole and are being supervised by public safety, but are facing revocation because they're using drugs usually, high level of that. And we work under a memorandum of agreement with public safety, very successful relationship we have with that agency. And we can take them into our program if they succeed. We notify the parole board and assume they stay on parole until I guess they max out. We have a 5th track which we've had a few people take advantage of, and those are people who are in prison but are approaching the furlough process where they're going to come back into the community or be paroled. And we've offered to include those people in our program, again under the memorandum of agreement with public safety. And our idea is you want to make an opportunity for high quality drug treatment like this at every stage that a person finds themselves in the criminal justice system, because the whole goal is to pull people out of the criminal justice system. And we've done that very successfully. Next week we have a graduation that'll make 380 graduates in over 12 years, and I track everybody. We have 84% plus that have never committed another felony.
Wow.
So it just proves that by having the judge participate at a high level like the drug courts do, that you can actually make these programs work, and you can pull people permanently out of the criminal justice system, because in order to graduate, these folks have to have a job, they have to have their high school diploma, they have to prove that they can use the tools and not use drugs. And so they've returned to taking care of their kids and being productive members of the community. And every once in a while I get to see one at the shopping center, and
that's great.
It makes me feel good that I
absolutely.
decided to do this years ago.
Well, it seems to me that, we've heard a lot of criticism about, we're locking up drug offenders in jail, and that's not the right place for them to be. And this program seems like, I guess from what you're telling me, that if somebody does go through this and fails, they end up in prison, but people who don't want to participate or don't want to clean up and take this path is the reason why many of them are locked up, and it's usually in conjunction with other crimes like property crimes or crimes against persons like assaults and those kinds of things. Is that correct? Or?
Well, unfortunately, there are we have people who fail our program, and when they do, 9 times out of 10 they get a prison sentence, but they have the opportunity then to go through the Cash Box program, which is run by Public Safety, which is an excellent program, which has been recently revamped. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No.
They've redone that program. I've talked to one of the people who runs it. It's all based on using the LSIR to identify criminogenic risk factors.
LSIR, what is that?
The LSIR is an assessment instrument that's used by all state agencies in Hawaii now to assess the criminal risk factors for people who are in the criminal justice system. We use it in the judiciary, Public Safety uses it. We give it to people periodically to see if the treatment they're receiving is having an effect.
Wow.
It's a very scientific approach. Prior to that, each government agency was using a different assessment instrument, so they weren't even on the same page. But that's the work of the Hawaii Council on Intermediate Sanctions. I think it's Interagency Council on Intermediate Sanctions. I should know that. I'm a member of it. but it was the work of that committee that got adopted in Hawaii, the LSIR.
Judge Wilson, I'm going to let you jump in here.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank you, Representative Fontaine, and also thank Judge Raffetto, because this program dates back to '95 when you were at the police department. I know that your department worked really hard on it, and Judge Raffetto was one of the people that originated the program. I've had the privilege of running the program on Oahu for a number of years, but don't have quite the background that Judge Raffetto does, and maybe the history that you do. But so what I can say from having the opportunity to be part of this is just chiming in on a statement that's often made by Judge Raffetto, which is, this is a program that works.
Yes.
That's the exciting thing about it. In a way, it's sort of the silver bullet of the criminal justice system, because you take what's the majority of the population, people that commit nonviolent offenses that have substance abuse problems,
Sure.
and address that problem in a way that applies, I guess you could say, the most up-to-date techniques. And as a consequence, you can take people that lack life skills, the people that can hardly balance a checkbook, that don't have much education, don't have a high school education, and instead of keeping them on the track of going to prison, which you saw so much when you were in the police department, it actually changes and diverts them so that they can move on and have a productive life, because they end up at the end of this program with some self-esteem.
Right.
And they feel like they know how to live a life that is clean and sober. A lot of people in the public rightfully might think that that just doesn't happen. By the time you commit a felony, and it's a felony drug offense, even if it's nonviolent, you're kind of hopeless.
Yes.
But you've seen that as a detective, how people can change. And I think that's one of the messages that Judge Raffetto speaks about so powerfully, because the statistics are there in Hawaii that show that the program actually works and saves money. You might want to talk about just the kind of savings that you've seen over the years.
Well, the other thing too I wanted to touch upon is that a lot of people in the community have brought up the point of the fact that that drug court is being soft on crime and soft on criminals, and it's some kind of airy thing that we're doing that doesn't really have much success. But from what you gentlemen have seen, and certainly what I've seen, is that it's a tremendously successful program, and the right way to deal with people who are dealing with substance abuse, and which leads to causing additional property crimes and crimes of violence and these kinds of things. At the core with a lot of these drugs, especially with crystal meth, it makes some fundamental physiological changes that happen in a person's head with these kinds of drugs. And the only way you're going to get people to stop committing crimes is to deal with the real root issue. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, if you take a step back, you have to realize that probably about 95% of our crime in Hawaii is mostly, I was going to say drug and alcohol, but mostly drug related, and mostly methamphetamine, which you've just mentioned. If we didn't have the drug problem in our state, we would have very little crime. Probably I wouldn't have a job, but that would be fun.
Nice, actually.
That would be fun. But this program actually does work, and we've proven it. You know, it's 12 years now, almost, that we're in business, and we have that track record after keeping track of everyone. The other thing I wanted to mention, though, is if a person has been ordered to pay restitution, they've harmed somebody who comes into our drug court, they have to pay the restitution, they have to do the community service, they have to pay their fines, they have to pay their probation services fee, anything that they've been ordered to do. And if they haven't been ordered, if there is someone who's been harmed by one of our people, we make them pay the restitution. So they make amends in that way, as well as a part of being successful in the program.
So are you seeing the same type of recidivism rate as Judge Raffetto is?
Yes, we do. We see a recidivism rate that's quite unusual. It's about 7% for individuals that go through the program. In other words, 7% of the people that have been seen to be involved in any type of a felony in their future. So it's just a statistic that shows that there is a real change in the pattern that this particular generation, the generation that comes in the drug court, is moving towards. An interesting concept that you see at graduation in drug court are the children that are there for the graduates. Say you have 20 graduates, well, you're likely to have at least 40 children.
Wow.
That's a group in the population, and I know you realize this from the work you did as a detective, but it's a group that has a lot of children.
Right.
So that generation that's following them is either going to go into prison, the statistics show that, to children of incarcerated people, or if the the pattern gets changed through the parents, then those children move on to a more productive life, and therefore, if you look at it in terms of generations, it's thousands and thousands of people that get moved out of the criminal justice system.
So we're breaking the cycle, gentlemen, right? Is that what we're doing? We're looking at a way to show, you know, mom or dad or both, they can be clean and sober and hold jobs, and you take away the institution of the parents being addicts, and then kids thinking that's okay, and that's what life is like.
They become a positive role model.
Exactly.
And they know, because they've been there and done that, so they're true believers at that point. The other thing I wanted to point out is, you know, when we incarcerate people, even if we incarcerate people, they all come back to Hawaii. It's not like people get on a plane after you send them to prison and don't come back here. They all come back, and they certainly come back to Maui. And so we have a heavy vested interest in having programs and getting behind programs like this that we know work. Because sending people to prison just doesn't work unless they go to cash box and they make progress on their, you know, towards their rehabilitation in that way. And sometimes I guess they do.